What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the MCU Reviewed here on the Geekiverse channel on YouTube and live on Twitch as well. Today, we are talking Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Funny enough, I have a lot of MCU steelbooks. I go back probably to a little bit before, I'd say, Civil War, maybe right around there in terms of releases. For whatever reason, when Shang-Chi came out, I did not jump on the steelbook at Best Buy. Best Buy was the servicer of those at the time.
Guess that.
I know, me too, man. Oh my gosh, Walmart's for the birds. But with Shang-Chi, Target had like an art edition, they called it, which is not an official steelbook, but it's still kind of cool. You know, you got some cool stuff in there. It does come with an art book if you're into that. But anyway,
that's kind of sick, though. That's kind of sick. I like that.
It is pretty. It's not a steelbook. Would you know it looking at it on the shelf? Probably not, but anyway, we're going to cover everything in the movie. We're going to rip it apart here, all the good, all the bad. We're going to rank it at the end and see where it lines up in our MCU rankings up through Shang-Chi. I'm Josiah Leroy. With me today, Mr. John Fick. John, you ready to talk some Marvel?
I'm very ready. I busted out the MCU glass here, poured myself a beer. I've got the MCU, the Infinity Gauntlet glass. I haven't been pulling out like nice glassware lately. I don't know why. I've just been like going for the traditional pint glass. But today felt special. We haven't talked Marvel in a while. Figured I had to do it. And yeah, it's been refreshing to get back into the MCU. We've had a bit of a hiatus, not even from the show, but from the MCU in general. Like, when was the last MCU movie? It's been forever. So it's nice to dive back into this, have these conversations again, have these movies on the TV again. I'm excited.
Kevin's got us on a diet. You know, we just had one last year, and then we've got our hands full this year, hopefully with some good stuff.
This week we're going.
We've got Cap this week. We've got Thunderbolts in a few months, and then Fantastic Four. Wow, it's incredible even saying that. JT, how you doing, man? You like this movie?
I do. We'll talk more about it, obviously, but I maybe I'll try to convince you guys to move it up the list a little bit. But
I'm curious to see where this ranks
or anything like that. But I do have my replica 10 rings. No, I'm just
kidding.
I'm gonna watch it.
LEDs and everything.
LEDs. I'm excited. Like John said, right? I feel like comparatively, actually, to when Shang-Chi came out, there were 4 Marvel movies released in 2021. Right? It was Black Widow, Eternals, No Way Home, Shang-Chi. So it's like
in 6 months.
So like a total push of movies, and I get Marvel was
backed up because of the pandemic too. It was backed up. A lot of that stuff was probably supposed to come out. Yeah, Black Widow was supposed to be 2019, I think, right?
Yeah,
and it got delayed. It
early 2020.
I think it was
COVID hit it.
I think it was originally 2019. It got just a regular delay, and then COVID, and then it got pushed. It just got shelved because of COVID.
Yeah, and everything got bunched up like crazy, and that was a whole thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be back. Right, happy to watch this. Happy for Cap on Thursday.
Yeah, it's fun. Always good to get back into these movies and chit chat about them. As I mentioned before, we're going to rank these. So John has a running list. We vote at the end of each of these episodes on each Marvel movie that we cover. Can't wait to see where this one goes. I did pull up the list beforehand. I've got an idea where I would put this. However, we'll get to it later.
I have it up now, just so the video watchers can take a quick look.
Thank you. So there's one spot on there where I'm like, ooh, I think this movie should be above this one, but not above that one. And it's a little out of order. So we'll see how that influences the voting. But I do like this movie as well, I will say. So we're going to watch the original trailer for it. We're going to talk about some of the notes. We're going to go through everything. We're going to talk about our favorite non-title characters as well as our favorite moment each of the movie. But before that, let's just talk about it. We mentioned, JT, you kind of put it on a platter for us. The four MCU movies in 6 months there, we were starved after going. It was an MCU movie every 3 to 4 months on average. Before that, of course, we had the pandemic hit, so we went almost 2 years without one. A little bit over, actually, I believe. And we were also coming off of Infinity War, Endgame, and Spider-Man. So we were really starved for content here. So when we got all these, there was no such thing as fatigue at that time. But do you remember your first viewing of the movie? Did you see it in theaters in that crazy time frame? Hit me.
Yeah, was it for me? Oh, sorry.
Yes.
I do vividly remember going. I think it was sometime early September. I didn't think it was when the movie came out, but it went with my normal crew. Right, I went with my brother and my two brothers, my wife who didn't really want to go, but I made her go. But I do. I remember it. Yeah, I mean, I was super excited for it. I think honestly, we all were super excited for No Way Home specifically, right, with that coming out. But I didn't know much, and honestly, I think I'm more of a comic guy than you guys, right? As far as the Marvel, Joe, I think you dabbled a little bit in the comics, right? Shang-Chi was
Barely.
not one character I knew about at all, right? So there was no expectations for me as far as going in. But I was super excited to kind of get into a new character. It felt fresh before going in, and I think as we watched the movie, it felt that way as well.
Yeah, well said. John, do you remember your first viewing of this and
You know what?
everything after?
I really don't remember I know I went to the theaters because it was like post pandemic. It was like the first, we went to Black Widow as well. Black Widow came to home right away, but it also was in theaters. And I know we saw Black Widow in theaters, so that was memorable because it was like the first MCU movie back after the pandemic. But I don't really remember going to see Shang-Chi. Like, Joe, did we see this together? Was this one of the movies we did together?
I don't believe we did. I was trying to reflect on that.
I don't know why I can't remember.
Spider-Man, I think, was the first one. Or
Okay.
no. We definitely saw Eternals together.
100%. 100%. Tim was there too. I remember seeing that.
Yes, I do remember that. I think Eternals was the first one that we went to.
Okay, I think you're right.
Kind of started the chain after that. But
it's weird that I can remember that, and like I vividly remember sitting up in the back row with you and Tim, and your dad was there too. I remember Eternals, but like I don't remember my theater experience with this movie for some reason. I don't remember going. I don't remember who I went with. I know for a fact I saw Shang-Chi in theaters, and I know I was very excited about it. It was one of those where it's like, all right, we had just gotten Endgame. We coming off of that, we got a Spider-Man movie. We got a Black Widow movie. It was interesting to get an origin story. Like it was the first origin story post Endgame. This was the phase 4. Like, all right, what does an origin story look like post Endgame? So it was very exciting. And I remember walking away from it being like, okay, that was cool. Like that was interesting. That was unique. Like there was a lot of promise there. Maybe we'll talk more about this later in the episode, but I remember walking away from it being so excited about some of the questions that it asked, that it raised, some of the things that we saw. In retrospect, watching this movie again 2 nights ago, being disappointed in the fact that we haven't touched on any of that stuff yet. Like the narrative things that this movie raises, we haven't even revisited. Like it almost felt like a layup. Like they brought Shang-Chi into the MCU, they made him this cool character, and they tied him right in with the main crew at the end of the movie with the post-credit scene. They're like, all right, he's part of the team now. Here's this fun, like he's gonna be part of it. And it just hasn't happened yet. We went on this weird multiverse saga. So it was interesting to watch this movie in retrospect because it's almost disappointing. It almost makes you realize how weird the twists and turns of the multiverse were. But I remember being hopeful because this was the first origin story and it hit well. And we'll talk plenty about the movie, but I liked it. I loved. I thought it was really cool to see like the Chinese culture. I thought that Simu Liu was just like perfect casting. The choreography, by far the best, the fight choreography in the MCU. The only thing that even comes close to it is Winter Soldier. This movie is just fun to watch, man. It's a blast.
Dude, I'm right there with you. I remember only enough to remember some of what I guess you summed it up nice when you said hopeful. And when I saw this, I remember thinking, all right, we're kind of resetting here. We're resetting for the next chapter of the MCU, whatever that's going to look like. We knew multiverse stuff was probably coming, and Spider-Man blew those doors wide open. But to me, it was like, all right, we had our soft entrance back in Black Widow. We know that wasn't going to move it forward, but it was a nice touch point. We get this, and watching right back to the post-credit scenes or mid-credit scenes, I'm like, wow, they've done nothing with any of this.
Nothing.
In 4 years almost. And it's very disappointing because I think Shang-Chi is actually a pretty good character. It's not a character where I'm like, oh, I'm glad they dropped it, right? There's a few of those that I'm like, okay, I'm fine if they rode away from this plot point. But this is one that I'm a little upset that they didn't stick with. Now, that could all change, right? Like we know that could all change.
We know
we don't know that yeah, like it's not necessarily going to change this year in terms of what we're getting for the MCU, but that that's where I'm at. Like I like the movie. I remember thinking that it felt like a Phase 1 origin story.
Yes,
like if I think back to the first Cap, the first Iron Man, even Thor. Talk about those, how you feel about those to varying levels, but like that's how I felt with this. I was like, all right, we're getting maybe a new pillar of the MCU here. If nothing else, we're getting a really cool character, a nice little ensemble as well, because I care about some of those characters that are around Shang-Chi. Like there was a lot of good stuff there. So I'm hopeful when we revisit Shang-Chi what that looks like.
Yeah, this as an origin story, this felt very Doctor Strange to me. This felt like a character that I didn't really care too much about. I didn't have very much background for. A lot of the touchstones were there with like some of the cultural stuff. Like it was just a very interesting movie, and they proved to me in an origin story that it's a character that I should care about. Felt very similar to the first time I saw Doctor Strange, and guess what? That panned out. Doctor Strange is like one of the MCU core people. Like even just talk about like the main cast of the Infinity Saga. Like Doctor Strange is top 5, right? Like he is so important to that story. Like we love that character. Stephen Strange like is beloved. But going into the first Doctor Strange movie, we're all like, oh, I'm excited, but I don't know who this is. Felt the same about Shang-Chi, and I think they hit the same way. They executed the same way on the film. They just dropped the ball after that. Like they just gave us this like. It's like you've got this rookie sensation coming up out of your, coming up in your system for a sports analogy. You let him play a year in the big leagues and he looks great, and all of a sudden you send him back down to the minors for 3-4 years. Like what are we doing here? Like this, like it's time. It's Shang-Chi time, man.
4 years now. Let's bring that man in.
Right, like, what are we doing?
Or something like,
yeah,
let's bring him up.
And when you talk about missteps of
it makes
the MCU,
it worse, John.
Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly that. I just wanted to jump on that point. When we look in hindsight now at what we've gotten, and I would say largely, you have a few outliers, but it's mostly been average or less. It's all relative, but based on what we saw in the first 3 phases, it's not as good. So when we see that all the other things came out, it's like, oh my gosh, you had something here that was really pretty good.
We're doing the MCU review. We're going to talk about Eternals. We're going to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. We're going to talk about all these movies that came out in Phase 4, and we're not going to talk about very many bad or subpar movies. We're going to talk about a lack of cohesion when it comes to the next steps for the MCU. That's the issue with Phase 4. Not many. There's not a bad movie in Phase 4. I'll say that right now. There's not a bad movie. There's not a movie that I don't want to rewatch. I don't think Eternals is bad. I know that's probably what you're thinking of.
Is Love and Thunder Phase 5?
Technically, or whatever. We'll figure that
out.
Quantumania
starts it off, but then
that might be the one where we'll have a conversation. Right. But like, Phase 4 is not full of bad movies. It's full of just questionable execution in terms of the path forward for the MCU. And what's crazy about it is like basically the first one. Black Widow doesn't count because that was just homage to Black Widow. Like she deserved that movie. That doesn't count. This was the first movie of the new characters in Phase 4, and they set it up really, really well, and they just did nothing with it. What a crazy world.
So much that happened as far as the MCU in general, and obviously with the whole Jonathan Majors.
Oh, there's so much.
They're obviously headed somewhere, right? And I think they had to kind of nix it all, and maybe the post-credit scene with Shang-Chi had something to do with Kang, right? And we don't know. Like,
yeah, but even like, so, I'm not even giving him that out because, like, it didn't work out up until that point either. Like, we saw Quantumania, and Jonathan Majors was very much in the picture with Quantumania.
He was the only redeeming quality of that movie, but anyway,
barely, bro, barely. We'll get there.
Yeah,
dude. I don't want to watch those movies.
I tried.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to revisit them. And
I don't want to.
I'm excited about the conversations. I'm excited about the conversations. That's what I'm excited about.
I might not go on that one. But anyway,
no, you're required. That show is not happening without you, JT. Like that's just you are. Even if you solo that,
can I get a button that just like bleeps out cuss words the entire time? Because I'm just gonna.
No, we need the views.
One thing I'll say that, like, and I'm not trying to give credit to the MCU or anything like that as far as the lack of cohesion, but maybe in some way it makes sense to build these stories individually and maybe have slim, like almost what James Gunn said about the DC, right? It's a connected universe, but don't expect every story to immediately connect to a larger story, right? Maybe the Marvel's better off doing that. They did that by accident with this. I think they just screwed up, right? And I'm not saying they purposely did this, but it's like the comics. Like you can choose what content you want to watch. Don't watch Secret Invasion, anybody. Please don't even turn it on.
Jesus Christ.
But besides that, you can watch what content you want to watch. You can like what you like, and maybe at some point, obviously, the characters connect, but the plot line of the story doesn't necessarily have to. James Gunn's doing it with DC, but he did it excellently with Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Obviously, there was connections. Don't get me wrong, but he purposely tried to not make it Guardians one, two,
Yeah,
and three
it
part
was
of
a
the Marvel story,
standalone.
right?
Yeah,
Right,
and I
and that's
think
okay. I think that's fine.
and I
I don't
think the
think Marvel did
MCU
that on purpose.
I think
But
the MCU had the benefit of the doubt when we watched this movie in theaters, but now 4 years
right,
later, it's like, dude, where are we going with this? Because we need to go somewhere, and like we've done a lot since then, and it
he's
doesn't add up.
and then we're so close to not to go too far off track, but we're so close to Doomsday, and it's like we're just gonna throw these characters in a giant box and say have fun. Like you know
Yeah,
what? Where's the story? Where's the content? Where's
like
the development? Right?
Shang-Chi sequel should have been last year or this year.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
again, we know so many things have happened. They really committed to that.
It's a whole nother realm,
They
right?
really
Like they don't necessarily even need to be in Earth when they do his
I
story.
know,
Like
but they
it's no,
gave
I'm agreeing with you.
they
That's what I'm
gave
saying.
us
Like
the promise of of the Banner and Wong, who was in this movie
yeah,
more than I expect him to be, and to get Captain Marvel at the end. Like they gave us the promise, like that, this was kind of the next steps of the Avengers or whatever you want to call it, and
right.
it just wasn't that. So again, we're talking about this as a movie. We're talking about this as an MCU property. It's two different stories, because this is a really,
Right.
really good movie, and I want to talk more about that, to be honest.
Absolutely.
It's more connected in that sense to what we had just prior gotten in the MCU than any other movie just about that we've had since, and that includes
No
Doctor
shit, yeah,
Strange. You know, uh, the Spider-Man movies. Like there's some Ant-Man, there's some heavy hitters, Thor, and this one was the one to me that felt most MCU, if you
yeah.
will.
It
But
was the one that really, like, it was a standalone origin story, but they had this wealth of already pre-established MCU stuff to kind of just cherry pick to add as cameos, and they did a great job with it. Like they gave us this splash of Abomination and Wong and like all these other, lots of other little touchstones to the MCU, and it felt so standalone, but like it felt like, yep, it's in that world, and that's really, really cool. This was maybe the first time, like, in the MCU that we are getting like an entire different universe, like a whole different this what's the town, the city called Ta Lo? Is it Ta Lo?
I'm not sure.
I think it might be Ta Lo. It's close to that.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this place is on Earth, but it's like a different dimension or whatever. Like it's the weirdest the MCU has got on Earth, but it didn't feel weird because like it was earned. We got here. Like they proved it. They let us get here, and I think they kind of just dropped the ball in the execution with like what that should be and what that could be in the future.
They told their story extremely well, and obviously Eternals is next to Joe's unexcitement, but
I'm pumped
Eternals
for
is
Eternals,
next, right?
man.
And one of the issues we had, or some people have had with Eternals, is the lack of doing exactly what Shang-Chi did for all of those characters, right?
Sure.
And maybe it did fit in a TV series ready to do that, but if some of these stories did what the Shang-Chi crew did, I mean, we'd be ecstatic, right? Like
Well, listen,
comparatively.
you gotta. I think what the MCU nailed in the first few phases was the fact that you have to love and care about these characters before you care about them teaming up,
Gotta earn
right?
it.
Like that. That's what DC didn't do when they failed on their front with their extended universe, and so many others have tried and failed too. We don't care about team ups until we care about those individuals first, and that was Shang-Chi for me. That was, I really like this. Oh, now I want to go see him lead, or be a part of the next iteration of the Avengers, so to speak.
Right.
But we'll dive into some more of that here. Before we queue up the trailer, we want to all watch that with you. Box office numbers. So we know this was a weird time for cinema, right? Coming off of kind of the tail end of the pandemic. You could say it went on a little longer. However you want to define it, it was definitely still in the heart of it. Only about a year and a half after it officially became a pandemic. So this released on September 3rd, 2021. You guys, John, I don't know if you saw the note, so disregard if you did, John, but any guesses as to where this landed in terms of box office run?
I did not see the note. My guess would be like in the 400s.
Okay. JT, you got a guess?
This is so we're tough. Like,
2021.
were theaters fully packed again at this? Remember they were doing like the 50%.
I think capacity, they were doing full capacity at this point. I could be wrong.
I would say about 350. 350.
All right, so yeah, both pretty close. John almost nailed it with the 400, so it was 432 million.
Okay.
Pretty good. Like,
Yeah, great
Not
for
bad
there's
at all.
movies
the
now that I'm
time.
worried about hitting that number, and we've been fully open for years. Like,
Do you have the international
is Cap gonna do
compared
that?
to that?
That should be
Joe?
international. Or no,
it
that should be worldwide.
So
No,
432 is
like,
worldwide.
just, right. What was just international? That's my question.
It was almost even. I can't
That's
remember which one was ahead.
crazy.
You would think,
Yes.
you know,
Yep.
internationally.
No, domestic always crushes. I know that with like the China references and stuff like that, but domestic always crushes for Marvel. Like 3-1 usually.
True. I'm thinking more like Godzilla.
Yeah, right, exactly. Those movies,
So,
yeah, there are
Jurassic
certain
Park,
movies
like
that
those
do
things.
really well,
Right.
you know, across the pond, but Marvel
Mm-hmm.
always crushes domestically.
Fair.
Yep. Well, not a bad return, right? If we don't really count Black Widow, this is the first unique story here, or at least character. But yeah, 432. So it was off to a promising start. That we got Eternals and Spider-Man. We'll talk about those numbers in those episodes.
And
But John,
I do recall that this one came to digital where you could purchase it for like $30 quicker than usual. Like it was still in that point where like, yes, the movie's still in theaters, but also like it's going to come out on digital like maybe a month and a half after its, theatrical debut. So they still made that those numbers aren't included in the box office. So like I think it did better than the box office numbers lead to believe because of that.
probably, yeah, for sure, definitely a factor.
Quick note on that too. How crazy! I mean, we're not technically exactly 4 years since that movie came out, but like we're in the 4th year of that movie coming out. That's insane.
Feels wild.
Time has just flown.
Feels
Yeah.
wild, man. It's a flat circle.
It really has. It really is.
For sure. John, I'm going to pass it over to you if you want to get us going on the trailer.
Yeah, you guys have the trailer up and running, ready to hit play?
Yes, sir.
John, you good?
Yes. Yep. Good to go.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna play it for the audience here in 3, 2, 1. Let it play.
I gave you 10 years to live your life. Now you see me rise. And where did that get you? You walked in my shadow. I trained you. So the most dangerous people in the world couldn't kill you. Son, it's time for you to take your place by my side. You better watch out, 'cause it's my time. The power in this soul mine. That's not going to happen. It's a new era, yes, I come alive. You woke up the dragon. You can't outrun. I run from who you really are.
Who are you?
Bugger.
Hold on, everybody! We make a good team.
I love watching a trailer and having it remind me of how much fun I just had watching that movie. That's like the best. That's the best part about the MCU review when we do these trailers. It's like when I watch a trailer and it just like beat for beat kind of recaps the movie in my head. I'm like, yeah, I had a blast with that movie. That's what that trailer just did. I will say that I remember thinking this movie would be a lot more serious because of those trailers than it actually was. There was a lot more levity and a lot more comedy than I expected when I went into it. I guess I should have expected that with Awkwafina being like, a co-lead in this movie. But like trailers, tonally, it was a lot more serious than it ended up being. But hype. That trailer was great. Movie's great.
It's a great trailer. Like it it's very complete beginning to end. I think it just obviously teases the humor enough. I'm a huge martial arts fan. I don't dive enough into that in movies like I should, but like, man, growing up, anything Jackie Chan would come out, I was such a fan of, whether it was serious or a comedy. Like Rush Hour 2 is one of my favorite comedies of all time. Of
Top
all
tier.
time. Like, I love it so much. I love stylized action like you would see in the John Wick
I
franchise.
was gonna ask you, a John Wick guy. Have you seen the John Wick movies?
Big John Wick guy. Like,
Got it.
absolutely love those. John Wick reviewed is happening at some point for us.
How have we never talked about these movies amongst ourselves? This is kind of wild.
I don't know. Rush Hour reviewed to be great too. There's only 3 of them, but anyway.
I should have known.
yeah.
You used to call me Bobby Yaga.
John Wick movie night. Just saying.
We could do that. We can crush all 4 and
Put it on the
We
side.
could.
it's not quite as daunting as the MCU reviewed.
That's very true. Well, anyway, where I was going with that, that trailer just nailed it all. I think they did. JT, anything we didn't cover there that you saw in that trailer?
Nah, I'm kind of on your boat. Like it, a little bit of the comedy I didn't expect, but I mean, one thing I will say that kind of I remembered, I think, from when I first watched it, I said, "Oh, they're gonna do way better than Iron Fist ever did." Like, obviously, Iron Fist being a show, right? But I was not happy with Iron Fist whatsoever, and they crushed it. I mean, it was phenomenally better in every aspect. Like, love it.
Really good. Here's one thing I'll say after watching that trailer and having just watched the movie. That trailer was beautiful. Like every scene of that trailer was like pixel perfect. It was they gave us all of the best that they had, because this movie, when you watch it, the 2 hour and whatever it is runtime, there's some rough CGI in this movie. There is. This is the first time. I'm sorry. This continued the trend after Black Widow, where I'm like, Marvel's cutting some corners. Like they are not shedding out the money they need to on the CGI, because like some of this stuff was rough. And of course you can get past that, like, suspension of disbelief, but like we just came off Endgame, man. We came off Infinity War, where Thanos was the most impressive CGI work of art of all time, right? Like that looked like an actual person in front of you watching Thanos on a big screen. To see some of this stuff in Shang-Chi, I'm like, damn, dude, like they really they didn't spend the money where they needed to, because it stood out to me a lot during this rewatch. There
were some real rough shots early on that I remember being like, what is
early
that?
on,
And then there were some that are stunning, like as
100%.
good as you see in the MCU.
100%.
And it's wild to see the contrast there.
I remember thinking when I watched this the other night, I'm like, okay, here's the dragons. That's where all of the money went. That's where all of the money went.
Yeah.
Dragon versus dragon. We're here. We're at this battle in Ta Lo. They did this first, and then they kind of did, they sent a B team to do all the fluff. Because the scenes where they're coming through the forest and the forest is opening up, it just looks like, it kind of looks like the battle of Naboo a little bit. Like it was a little rough. A lot of the greenery was flat. It kind of looked like a Windows XP background at times.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm gonna jump into my show notes here. We'll incorporate some of our favorite performances, our favorite moments throughout it. Stop me if there's something I'm missing, or if you have something to add. I already covered it though with Shang-Chi here. I said that I felt like this was more of a phase 1 MCU origin than a phase 4. That endears me to this. Like that brings up some nostalgia in addition to helping me like this movie on its own. So there's kind of a good blend there. Speaking of visuals, I don't know if you guys, so I have the 4K Blu-rays for most of these movies now. I always like to put that in my Xbox or PlayStation. I love the disc experience with those. It's just that slightly, that slight edge when it comes to visuals. However, this is one of the movies on Disney Plus that offers the IMAX formatting, so I have to take that shot.
So frustrating.
Why do we not
dude.
have Star Wars IMAX on Disney Plus yet? Like, oh my gosh.
I don't think. Well, Star Wars. I don't know if most of the Star Wars movies were shot in IMAX. I don't know if there are IMAX aspect ratios. Maybe 7, 8, and 9 had some scenes.
I want to say the prequels, or I could be wrong.
Okay, well, we can look into that.
Yeah.
I didn't think so. My frustration is why doesn't the disc have this stuff, dude? Like the most premier version of this movie, the one I'm paying $39 for, doesn't have the IMAX aspect ratio. That's insane. That's why I stopped.
They could sell it. as a special edition, and
100%.
people would go and be like, "I'll pay for the IMAX edition."
To them, it's more valuable to paywall that behind Disney Plus and get the extra whatever it is a month nowadays. I don't even know. But that's frustrating because like I stopped buying these movies because in my opinion, I'm getting a better version on Disney Plus, even though it is definitely not better fidelity. Obviously, there's more compression. The bitrate's not as good as a disc, but like I prefer that aspect ratio, man. I prefer that full screen, that IMAX.
It's killer. Like, I'm surprised we don't see it more in general, and definitely not on streaming services these days. But like, remember when that hit, John? Like, I feel like it was secret. Like,
so
all of a
cool.
sudden, we just discovered one night that you could watch some of like a handful of these in IMAX.
Yeah, it was just a couple of them.
Whoa, my gosh! Like, I think they don't advertise it either.
They don't, and it just happens to work out that like the IMAX aspect ratio is almost perfect for what an actual television is. Like it almost fits your television perfectly, which is amazing. And it's weird because like
it's really good.
Other studios and directors do it the opposite. Like Christopher Nolan, all of his movies you can buy on Apple TV or you can get streaming and stuff like that. You can only get the IMAX aspect ratio with the disc. To me, that's the way to do it, man. Like sell the better version to the people willing to pay more for the higher fidelity. Like I bought Interstellar on 4K Blu-ray. Like now I have the IMAX version of Interstellar. My Apple TV version or the one that goes on Netflix has just, it has my letterbox 16:9 version. Like it's backwards to me.
No, I would agree with that. It doesn't quite make sense. Martial arts, we talked about a little bit, 2 minutes ago. I really think the choreography in this movie is outstanding,
unmatched.
Some of it's really good, especially with Shang-Chi's parents. Like that initial memory when they meet for the first time and they kind of duel. It's almost poetic, right? Like they're dancing, but they're fighting at the same time. Like that's really pretty. Some of the visuals in that look pretty good.
Gorgeous,
in the background.
gorgeous, 100%.
Like,
I do.
Go ahead, JT.
No, sorry. That is my moment. Like I'll just incorporate my moment in there.
Yeah,
right?
go ahead.
And you want to know why? It reminded me of Ghost of Tsushima for some reason. Just
you
beauty,
can see,
right? Like just like every piece of it. I remember, like I felt like I was on my P4 playing Ghost of Tsushima for the first time. It was just like how they kind of intertwined their different styles of martial arts, and
the backdrop, the backdrop of that set piece was just gorgeous. Like that's where they spent some money on the CGI there. Right?
Yeah, 100%. It was like probably one of my top 5 MCU moments, hands down.
Visually, it is really nice.
Visually, yes, yeah.
It's two characters we don't really care about yet, like right. we kind of just sort of know them. But John, do you have a moment from Shang-Chi while we're on this topic, or do you need to?
I need some time.
Okay.
Let's go through some notes, and I'll get there eventually, I'm sure.
Sorry, it just was mine, so
No, it's fine. Man. Yeah, if you've got it,
we make the rules here, brother.
Flag.
We make the rules.
We do.
So this one is for our good buddy Trevor. There's a Jeff Gordon reference early on from Aquafina, which I kind of tongue in cheek. Trevor is a huge NASCAR
of all time.
Jeff Gordon, like he should know. It's so good. Their exchange, so between Katie and Shang-Chi on the plane when they're talking about names and how he chose Sean as his essentially fake name. It got me thinking about their chemistry. Those two together, I am such a fan of. I'll say this: I'm not traditionally an Aquafina fan. Like I usually can take her or leave her. I really, really like her in this movie. She's really good. She gives it heart, man. She gives it that extra layer. Like she's exactly what Shang-Chi needs. Like she's such a perfect partner for him in this movie. I love it. Their chemistry is off the charts.
Totally agree. She was perfect for this role.
Absolutely.
And where I normally don't find her super funny, I thought she was really funny almost across the board in this.
Yes, it was written perfectly for her type of humor, for sure.
Like, she is the Chris Tucker character if we're talking about Rush Hour 2.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
There's a moment when she is, like, hanging off the edge of the bamboo on the side of the building when she's screaming, and I swear I was like, oh, that's such a Chris Tucker, like, homage right there. Like, when he's like, so good. The soundtrack for this is outstanding. John, you mentioned earlier that you liken this movie a little bit to how you felt when you saw Doctor Strange. In some ways, I almost liken this a little bit more to how I felt when I saw Black Panther for the first time, with how it dives into how the soundtrack comes alive and almost becomes a character at times. Not as prominent as it does in Black Panther, no doubt, but here they really incorporate a nice kind of Eastern feel with some hip hop, with also a little bit of what you would come to expect from a superhero movie.
I will say
does that make sense?
100%. I got that vibe more from the trailer than I did from the movie. So I remember feeling like, all right, you're going Black Panther again. Like, we've got this hip hop, we've got this Western Eastern vibe, like, you know, this clash of cultures going on. I remember maybe it was the comedy kind of overpowering that, where I didn't have that takeaway as much as I wanted to. Not even that it's that much of a negative, because the comedy was fun. Like, that the levity of the movie was fun, and there certainly were those moments where, you know, I had that experience as well. But I just rewatching this trailer, I'm like, yo, you're nailing that Black Panther vibe in this trailer. Didn't come through as much for me in the movie itself.
Yeah, it's definitely heavier in the trailer than it is throughout the movie. But yeah, I love it, and I'm happy they did that. I hope we get more of it as we move forward. Of course, we got a lot of time, relatively speaking, with Wong, of course, who originated from Doctor Strange. He's become a nice character throughout the years here, and whatever property he pops up in, which is fun. Abomination, a total throwback, right? We're like, oh my gosh, what are we talking about
That's
here?
one of those classic Marvel things where I'm like, why is this in the trailer? Like, I get you got to sell tickets, but like, do you really have to sell tickets? Because we're all going to be there. Like, why do we know that Abomination and Wong are in this movie? I remember having like a head scratch moment. Like, just let us find that out at the theater, man. Like,
Yeah, they were not in the prove it stage, right? Like, they had us.
Right.
They had us going to everything. 4 movies in 6 months, like we said. Kind of wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's funny. I've been reading up on some non-spoilery Captain America stuff for the movie this week, and a bunch of outlets are basically saying, like, this is kind of an Incredible Hulk sequel.
Cool.
Which I'm like, oh, you could take that a few ways.
Yeah, you can.
know?
But back
I'm okay with
to
that.
me too.
I'm excited.
Back to the Abomination thing. It was cool to get the answers and the payoff to why Abomination was there during She-Hulk, because I almost thought we would kind of never get that, the way they were treating this Shang-Chi story. Like, okay, we're never touching any of this again. Interesting. Okay, thank you. It was cool to finally see during She-Hulk, like, why this happened, and get the, you know, the behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's a nice bit of connectedness there that has not always hit home in the last 2 phases. I love, you know, some people hate it, some people love it. Being a huge Iron Man 3 fan, I love every minute from what we got of the fake Mandarin, Trevor. He is so
Trevor
funny.
Slattery,
Even
baby.
in this, he's so good. Even like playing dead on the battlefield, all of it, the jokes that came before it, not sure if he was tripping or not. Like, anytime we can get him on screen, I'm going to sign up for it right now. It's always funny to me.
JT jumped the gun with favorite moment. I'm jumping the gun with favorite non-titular character. It's Trevor Slattery. I was so happy to see him here, man. Like, I loved the explanation for the Mandarin and how they took my work and they used the name of a chicken dish. Like, I love that. I love that twist, that because like, people were pissed about Iron Man 3, how they took you know,
they were upset
about, you know, a character as prestigious as the Mandarin in Marvel lore and made him literally into an actor. So to see that kind of like re-explained here, and to have, you know, the actual owner of the 10 Rings talk about it, and then to still get Trevor Slattery in this movie, I thought it was awesome. I thought he was just like the third act of this movie, not that he owned it or anything like that, but like his presence was felt in the third act of this movie.
Agree with that.
How funny, like, right? Like, we get the actual real Mandarin for all the people who wanted that, were upset about it however many years ago with Iron Man 3, and we still get the fake one.
That
Did
almost
you guys know
felt.
there was a Marvel one-shot for Trevor?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. That was I
Yeah.
love that.
that was perfect, too.
Him being in this movie, like, not that it had the same impact, but it was almost as much of a surprise as the Vulture reveal in Spider-Man Homecoming. It's like, holy shit, the Vulture is her dad. Like, holy shit, Trevor Slattery's in this movie. Like, I remember like in the theater being like, oh snap, that's crazy, man.
It's so good, like, so good. I on the Iron Man 3 topic there, you know, we talked about it years back when we recorded that episode. I love that movie. I know John loves that movie. We turned Rashawn's opinion around on it. When it comes to that, I feel like, because I had no like preconceived notion about who the Mandarin was or who he was supposed to be, like, I thought that character still, even in hindsight, was executed so well in intensity, even though I know it was fake. Like
100%.
think about like the commercials they put out with him, or like how they interrupted news stations, right, with his messaging. Like they did a really good fake terrorist, even though he was a complete and utter joke.
And we
like,
didn't know that
it's
until
so
the movie.
intense.
In the trailers, we thought it was
Exactly.
legit, and we all bought it. Like it worked so well. Yeah, that twist was
It's
fun.
so good. So that's my commercial. Go back, watch Iron Man 3,
Yep.
maybe with a different lens if you didn't like it. So I'll jump into my two things here. So my non-title character, what, you know, I had two listed. I had Trevor second. First for me, it's Katie. Like Aquafina, I love that character. Even just the way she supports Shang-Chi throughout it. Like she's a true best friend. I love that there's slight, like very slight hints of romance that kind of go throughout the movie, just enough to make you question it, even to how they walk off at the end before they meet the Avengers. Like it's all executed so well, and Aquafina, like I said, is very much the heart of this movie, and very much she obviously brings the humor, but she does it in such a nice way in this. I was such a fan of that performance. For that moment for me, I love the bus scene. That sequence with the fighting throughout is absolutely outstanding. It's really good. Not for 1 second do you roll your eyes at any of the kind of the, I would say, superhero tropes in terms of fighting there. Like it's all very, very good and feels authentic. I'll say that, and then just a quote that I loved, which was later in the movie. I forget the name of the person who was talking to Katie, but they're talking about training her to shoot arrows. And it was just, if you aim at nothing, you hit nothing. And that's a nice little quote that you can take throughout life for whatever you're doing. Don't be surprised if you see that from me on LinkedIn at some point. Like it's such a good quote. But yeah, that moment for me has got to be the bus scene. It's epic. So good.
Yeah, I have my moment. I'm
Okay.
gonna go for it. It's the transfer of power. It's when Shang-Chi is facing off against his father, whose name I don't know if I ever knew. I don't really care. And it's when he takes control of the rings. Like what a badass. Like it almost felt Thor taking control, or Cap taking control of Mjolnir. Like, oh shit, he's worthy. Like that's his weapon now. How sick is that? Obviously not as much build up and not as much hype, but in that movie, I think they earned how cool that moment was. And I remember that being like one of the standouts in already. Like we talk so much about these origin stories and how like the third act is usually a big issue because they're kind of just usually fighting a different version of themselves. You look at Iron Man 1, it's just Iron Man versus Iron Man. There's so much of that. Doctor Strange, it's just Doctor Strange versus more Doctor Strange type magic, right? We got such a unique third act here, and that was a real highlight of this incredible third act, was that father-son, that transfer of power with the 10 rings. Like what a blast.
I agree, John. That's solid. The last note I have, other than mid credits here, is the 10 rings are one of the MCU's, if not the MCU's coolest weapon. Like tough to talk about when you got Mjolnir and Stormbreaker and Cap's shield. Like there's a lot of cool stuff, no doubt about it. But like those just are epic. The way they even, yeah, absolutely. I think visually they're number one. Like the way they glow, whether it was blue or orange, like obviously, you got hints of lightsabers there for me, but like how it like they even looked when they were on the arms, they didn't look cheesy or anything. They looked like they were actually sinking and moving based on whose arms they were on and what had just happened.
Right? Like,
yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yes, like those could have looked terrible, especially with some of what we saw in this movie visually, but they didn't, and they did a really good job. I think they're one of the coolest weapons we've seen in this entire almost 20-year run of MCU here. Crazy.
And to get that post-credit scene and hear Bruce and Wong talk about these things, like they're these artifacts that we don't know anything about, and they how long has your dad had them? A couple thousand years, which is weird as hell, but like, oh, we think they're older than that. Like the mystery behind them is so cool too.
Yeah, like what does that mean? Like what are we going to dive into in Shang-Chi 2, right? Like
maybe in 5 years we'll find out.
Seriously. Even his sister at the end kind of taking over the empire, right? Like
Cool.
there were so many things happening there where I was like, all right, we're setting up for a really nice sequel,
That's
which
one
we still may just one day.
we definitely will get a Shang-Chi too, whether we will get one for sure. Like that has to happen. Like it makes too much sense. Like this was such a prominent next step for the MCU that it has to happen. We speak about the sister. Felt a little underbaked. Like I felt like a lot of the stuff with the sister just didn't really hit as hard as it should have. Like I didn't really care much about their relationship because like originally in the flashbacks we kind of just got Shang-Chi and the father and the mother, and she was kind of added about halfway through the movie, so it almost felt like she was an afterthought. And I get she was kind of a plot device to get him where he needed to be, and now it was father, and now it was brother and sister versus father. So like I didn't totally hate it, like it made sense, but I felt like there was more potential there for that story.
It didn't bother me. I see what you're saying. To me, like all the emotional capacity for Shang, his attention was really divided, right? Like between not having his father there to, oh my gosh, my father's evil, to losing his mother. But then like the heart again of the story in his relationship is Katie. Like he's so tight with her that like if they did that again, it might have almost felt like double dipping.
I guess I just don't see what the purpose of her really was, other than to be the plot device to get him back into this life. That's kind of like, and not to say that it's a bad like portrayal of a character, but it felt a little shallow, and like that to me it feels more writing than it does performance, because I'm sure she's a great actress and the casting was great, but it just felt like she didn't have much to work with. Like she was just kind of there because we needed something else. We needed another part of this family.
Could also in essence have been having one eye towards what this sequel was going to look like, because I know that was higher up the chain in terms of timeline before things kind of fell through and got reshuffled with all the Phase 5 stuff.
Sure.
But
and I will say the payoff of her taking over was very cool, so I'm all about that. I'm in on that for sure.
Anything else before we get to the rankings? Anything that I forgot to mention? Anything that's on your mind, JT?
No, I didn't do the titular character, but John didn't even want to remember his name, so he's the only one that's really left, right? There weren't a lot of characters to pick out, but Shang-Chi's dead. When Wenwu, it was cool to see the actual Mandarin operating and how that kind of all came to be, really the lore that turned into the actor in Iron Man 3, and then actually ended up being someone in this movie, right? I will say that the one thing I am excited for is for that to pay off, the post-credit scene. I think the plan honestly was Kang, like in some way, quantum bands, right? There was all these theories out there that Miss Marvel's bands and the Marvels is related to Shang-Chi's rings and yada yada yada, and that's where they're sold. None of that's gonna happen anymore, so we'll see what happens with it. But maybe a little bit of payoff in Doomsday, right? We'll see where that goes. But I think this movie was great. It was overall it was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a big fan of it.
Agreed.
John, if you want to take us through what we're looking at for the rankings, how we vote on them, all that good stuff, I'm going to pass it over to you.
For sure. So the rankings are here. We're 24 movies deep. We've got quite a list here. We're just about halfway through, honestly, with all the stuff we haven't touched on yet. The MCU, like I always say, it just keeps going, man. The original goal for this show was to catch up with Endgame and to cap this thing off with Endgame, but they kept going, so we're going to keep going too. You want me to go through the rankings? Go through everything? I could. It's 24 movies.
Yeah, why don't you do it?
Let's do it. All right, we're gonna start from the bottom. Which is different, I think. No, we usually start at the bottom. So bottom, we've got Incredible Hulk at 24. Then we have Thor: The Dark World at 23. Ant-Man and the Wasp at 22. Black Widow, our last episode, at 21. Thor at 20. Captain America: The First Avenger at 19. Captain Marvel at 18. Iron Man 2 at 17. Doctor Strange at 16. Ant-Man 15. Iron Man 3 at 14. Iron Man, the original, the movie that started it all, at 13. Then we have The Winter Soldier, Captain America. Lots of controversy with that movie being so low, but we're at the point where all of these movies are freaking amazing at this point. Number 11, Spider-Man: Far From Home. Number 10, Avengers: Age of Ultron. Number 9, The Avengers. 8, Guardians of the Galaxy. 7, Black Panther. 6, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Number 5, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Number 4, Captain America: Civil War. Number 3, Thor: Ragnarok. Number 2, Avengers: Infinity War. Number 1, Avengers: Endgame. I've got some qualms with the list, but not too many. It's a pretty good list here, fellas. We're doing all right.
Yeah,
We're-
I'd be
think-
nitpicking.
I don't think Thor Ragnarok's ever gonna drop. I don't know.
Yeah, I
We'll-
mean,
we'll see.
like,
we'll see when we get there.
I'm a,
Like, I
I'm,
think the top three is solid, man.
I
don't
can
think
flip-
we're ever gonna move it.
I could flip a coin between Thor Ragnarok and Civil War. Tell you that right now. Like, if you tell me that if that Civil War is ahead of Ragnarok, I'm not mad for a second. I love those
So,
two movies. They're very
it-
different movies, but
I agree. And like Civil War, like I do love Winter Soldier. I think more than you guys. You guys don't hate it. I get it.
yeah, we love that movie.
It's not top 5, but Civil War does have the themes of Winter Soldier, and it's just an overall better movie, right? So like, yeah,
More
I
hype,
agree with
at
that.
least,
But then
you know?
Thor Ragnarok, God, man, I mean, it's.
Dude, I don't. So
I
nothing
don't know.
we've seen
I think it stays
to
there.
this point in the MCU, like through Deadpool and Wolverine, like through that, I have not seen anything that would take me above those top 3. And probably, you know, we'd
Probably
go
4.
down that list a little bit more, but like
Hey,
definitely not the top 3 at this point.
Save those opinions for the rewatches. You never know. Love and Thunder could be top 2 easily if we.
All right, so yes.
You know, it is funny to think on that topic quick, that we have Thor Ragnarok like insanely high. And then you could have the other 3 Thor movies, what, 20th or lower,
Yeah,
I
as it
would
stands
watch,
now, which is wild.
I
I
would watch The Incredible Hulk and Quantumania back to back for the rest of my life and not watch any other content than watch Thor: Love and Thunder.
I'm still at the point right now with this list in front of me. There's not a bad movie on this list. There might be bad movies in the MCU. We haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
The Incredible
I would
Hulk's
agree.
not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie at all.
No, it's not.
No,
It's
no,
not.
no. I'm
it's
talking
not
about
about-
Thor: Dark
No,
World. It's
even-
good.
Even
There's
that's
some
not
good
a.
scenes.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not bad.
There's not a bad movie on this list. Speaking of this list, where are we starting with Shang-Chi? So I talked about Doctor Strange. I talked about Doctor Strange, and I to me that's kind of the vibe I get. That's like that's how impactful this movie was. So that's kind of where I want to start. I feel like Doctor Strange is a pretty good starting point. Do we all agree?
Oh, that's so much higher than I thought you were going to start it at.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean, we're high on this. I mean, yeah.
I personally would start it above Ant-Man to start.
All right. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Where are you guys going with this
Ant-Man.
movie? Oh my gosh. Okay.
15.
Ant-Man.
Okay.
Okay. You think above Ant-Man 1.
Correct.
Got it.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
I think Doctor Strange is a fair point. Joe, where would you think a fair point to start would be for
I was
Shang-Chi?
going to start it around 19 or 20, assuming we would vote it up.
Yeah,
you know
for
what I mean?
sure.
Like,
yeah, for sure. I mean,
just-
like obviously
but,
we think
you
it's
know,
better
you-
than Thor and the first Cap and Captain Marvel. Like we like I think those 3 are a given. There's all
okay, yeah.
Joe,
Here's my issue.
When you and I are on the podcast, there's always a conversation when there's an Iron Man movie involved. There's always a conversation.
So I alluded to it earlier without, giving away too much. I'm going to give it away. So it's not better than Iron Man 2. Shang-Chi is not better than Iron Man 2. But
What?
I also think Iron Man 2 should be higher up the list. I didn't get my way when this vote happened. So like I would okay. Just start it cuz I'll bring it back after
No,
that.
About
no, I know-
totality of the list.
I know where
It's
you're
a
at. I
No,
know
it's not though.
totality.
It's not cuz it's how we vote. So like I'll
It's hands down.
I'll
better.
I'll
Okay,
explain
go.
myself after because
Yep,
it'll
yep.
give it away.
Okay,
I know where you're
so
at.
start-
I know where
start
you're
give it
at for sure.
start-
Yeah.
start-
Okay. So let's start
I start it right behind Iron Man 2.
which is where I'm at right now. That's where it is on the screen currently.
Okay. Got it.
Joe's got to play the game.
Just so everyone knows, I can't see that screen. So
Is
I'm
it
not
better
being
than
able-
Iron
yeah,
Man 2?
yeah.
Yes or no, Joe?
It's not.
So you wouldn't
No.
vote it past that.
No.
So Joe's out of the game. Joe's out of here.
I would.
Yes.
I would. Joe.
It's you and I, John. And I'm sorry to tell you, no, I'm just kidding. I agree. I think I'm going to put this ahead of Iron Man 2. What about Doctor Strange, John?
Wow.
Yes. Oh, I don't know. Hold on. Wait. Let me think. I'm not saying yes yet. Wait.
See, if I was voting here, I would say 100%.
Right.
It's
but
better
so-
than Doctor Strange.
Sure.
But it's not better than Iron Man 2. So that's my problem.
Yeah, you fell into a trap.
Like John kind of convinced me to love Doctor Strange more again.
Doctor Strange is
With your
incredible,
earlier
dude.
comment.
Really, really good movie. We're in the so there's 3 tiers of the MCU. There's
They both did the same thing. Like Doctor Strange and Shang-Chi both made me love guys I didn't love.
sure, but what do you like more?
Like-
What's the vibe you're more vibing with? And like, there's a lot to that because obviously Doctor Strange means more to the MCU, and they paid off on
It's
that
like
stuff.
one
but
of the
like,
best Phase 4 and 5 combined movies.
sure,
It's above Doctor Strange. Do it.
I agree. I'm with you. I put Shang-Chi
Was-
above
wait.
Doctor Strange.
Shang-Chi is absolutely one of the best Phase 4 or 5 movies, but I'm just saying, like, what are we talking about?
Yeah,
You know?
right. It's a
Like,
good movie. It's a
There's
really
not
good
a lot
movie.
of competition.
I'm with that.
Oh,
I'm
yeah, bro, for
I'm
sure.
above Doctor Strange with Shang-Chi. What about number 15, Ant-Man? Where are you at
Can't
there?
consider that this movie.
I would vote it above Ant-Man as well if I had a vote here.
I would do. I love Paul Rudd, man. I would do the same. I would do the same.
Well, you got to vote, so you can.
So, well, hold on, Joe. Let's back up. You can be a part of this. Still, like if you want this to go higher
Didn't
on the
we-
list, you can ignore Iron Man 2 for the sake of the list if you want to. If you think
I thought we said that, like, I think that's how we did it in the past. Like, if you stopped voting there,
Yeah, but, like,
you were done.
but you're
or
allowed
was
to
that
look,
coincidental?
yeah, you're allowed to look ahead at the list. If you want this movie higher than other stuff ahead of Iron Man 2, you don't have to let Iron Man 2 stop you.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I
He
thought
thinks he's just
we
out on
had-
voting. That's what.
Yeah, I thought we had established that. Like,
I think John said you can still give your background.
Only
so
for
I-
the sake
yeah.
of the buildup. Like, yes,
I
you
see
can,
what you're saying.
You can
I see what you're
you can
saying. Okay.
recognize that you like Iron Man 2 better than Shang-Chi, but if you still want Shang-Chi higher, you can keep voting yes. Like, there's no rule against that.
see, JT and I are. I think JT, if I may, we're under the impression I can't vote.
You can.
Once I voted.
No, you can.
Oh,
Right?
I always thought that
No, I mean,
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
because you said he was out in the beginning.
I thought he was calling himself out because he thought that that's where the movie should stop.
No, because so that you even said it's a trap because like I like it better than Iron Man 2, but like I would also if you're
trap.
it's a trap.
But
You're
Joe,
asking me one by one if I like it better than the next movie.
I am, but you have to play the game. What do you care about more? Do you care more about Shang-Chi being below Iron Man 2, or do you care more about
no,
Shang-Chi being...
I lost that battle.
No,
No.
but in your heart though. So say this is just a one-man show.
Oh no, I don't care how low Iron Man 2 goes once it's passed. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
no,
I don't
but
care how much it gets buried.
Hear me out. Say this is just the Joe show, and this is the list in front of you. Do you care more about Shang-Chi being ahead of or behind Iron Man 2 because you like Iron Man 2 better?
No.
Or do you care more about it being above Doctor Strange and Ant-Man because you like it better than those? That's my question.
I would care more about it being above Ant-Man and Doctor Strange.
So I think
So
you should
my,
still
my
be.
vote would be there.
I think you should still be in this game here.
Okay.
I'm cool with that. I just
Yeah.
we, we were
No,
on the
that's
assumption
good.
that it was always
I-
what Joe said.
It's
I
a
think
game.
this is a rule we didn't establish. Like
There are
obviously
no
we can change
rules
it on
here.
the fly.
There's no rules here. This is a game.
All right,
This-
so let's take it up because John's hesitant. We go to
All right.
Batman.
Well, that's where my game ends.
so you want
Now that
above
we've
Ant-Man.
established that,
Yeah, so
I wanted above Ant-Man. Yeah.
yeah, right. So like, yeah, you got to look at the whole. When you're voting, you got to look at the whole list. Like, you got to pick your battles. Like, if you're gonna pick your battle at 17, like you're so definitive that Iron Man 2 is better that you're out of the game. That's fine. If you think Iron Man 2 is better, but you still think Shang-Chi is so much better than these other movies, keep fighting.
Oh,
keep,
okay.
keep,
Okay,
keep
so
So that's
fighting.
different too.
But
Okay.
John's saying don't
So-
give up. That's what he's
Yeah,
saying.
keep fighting.
I see what you're saying.
Make the
No,
list.
Technically, he can bail out, but you're saying he doesn't have
Fight
to
the
bail out.
fight to make the list as close to the way you want it as possible. Is the way, you know.
Yeah,
Right.
I guess.
All right,
We're
Joe, what we
splitting
doing?
hairs here,
Ant-Man,
'cause I
yes
don't-
or no?
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's up to you.
Yes.
Yes, Ant-Man.
All right,
Yes.
so you fellas are both above Ant-Man. I'm probably with you guys. I could flip a coin. I think Ant-Man's super charming. I love that movie. But I love Shang-Chi too, so I'm there as well.
Shang-Chi
But-
2 didn't come out yet.
as well. But there's no shot it goes any further because Iron Man 3 is the best Iron Man movie. It's not even close. Me and Joe, I think, both fall off with Shang-Chi above Ant-Man, behind Iron Man 3.
I'm right there with you guys.
Let's
but
go.
I will say one thing. Let me say one thing.
Say it.
Two things. One, two.
Say as many things as you want,
Two
John.
things.
It's better than Winter Soldier. Oh my gosh,
It's
crazy.
better than Far From Home, and it's better than the Avengers.
Dude, we have to have
I just don't like those movies. Oh no, that's a lie. Time out.
Wait, what did
I
you
don't like
just
Far
say?
From Home, and I think Avengers is aging out. I hate Far From Home. You know this. I told you guys this.
John,
I thought you
not like
changed when
John,
we recorded
rewatch
it.
the
It might make-
episode you were on with Far From Home. Just rewatch your episode.
Far From Home.
Yes,
I
you
told
were.
I started hating it more as I watched it. The
Oh
No,
my
you,
God,
we
John.
changed you. I think
We changed you. You were all in on Far From Home. You voted it higher than
I
all.
hate it more and more.
Oh my
maybe
God.
Rashawn stood in for JT on that one.
No, you
It's been
are.
5.5 years.
You are misremembering. You are
No,
5.5 years.
We just did it last year.
No, I'm saying I've watched that movie for 5.5
I
years
see,
now,
I see,
and I hate it
I see.
more and more I watch it.
That is not what you said for 2.5
my
hours on the
gosh.
podcast we recorded about that movie. Just so you know.
No.
No,
we go play
The
it back.
Avengers, I definitely don't like. The more the Avengers passes, it needs to go down that list.
Yeah, so the
So-
only. Go ahead, Joe.
listen. When we do eventually get to whatever is the current end of the list, you know what I mean? Like when at that time when we've watched all these and ranked them all,
We're gonna reorder
that
the
is
rank.
the list. However, I think we should absolutely do a version of what Kind of Funny is doing with our own individual lists and average them out.
I
as the
agree, but
extended edition list.
but so I agree. I'm fine with that. I'm not protesting, but the spirit of this show is we review these movies based on the rewatch, and that's what we've done. Like we didn't put Avengers at 9 because of nostalgia. We watched Avengers, and then within the next 3 days, we recorded an episode and talked about how much we love that movie. We didn't say, oh man, in 2012 Avengers was so good, so it should go. We didn't do that. That's not how this list was formed. This list was formed was I watched Avengers 3 days ago, and that movie was awesome, and this is where it's going. So like that's what the list is
I
representative
don't think
of.
I agree with it being this.
Well,
high.
you weren't on for Avengers, I don't think. So that's fine. Yeah,
No.
you replaced Rashawn after well, I don't even know where we were at. I
Did
think it
I
was
try? I tried snapping Age of
yeah,
Ultron.
you got cooked.
Yeah, I got cooked.
Yeah, I'm. Well, hold on, back up. I'm with you. Age of Ultron is better than Avengers, but we got there. That's how the voting worked out. We don't vote about these movies in a vacuum. We vote about these movies with our last watch of them.
What happened? Didn't we have Age of Ultron above it? Did someone snap it and it just
It must have.
was
I think
Dell on that episode or something? Like, and like
somebody screwed
There-
us over.
we got outnumbered, obviously, because like I feel like I would have had Ultron above Avengers. You would have had it above Avengers.
I don't. Yeah,
Let's go back and watch now.
Yeah, we
I
gotta
feel like
watch our own
Rashawn
content.
snapped
Like
it or
it's
something,
just
and
funny-
Dell took it and ran with it.
Yeah,
It's funny that they're right next to each other on the list too, because I think as you watch, and again, separate from the conversation, I get that, John. But as you watch the Avengers, it goes like this to me. The more I watch Age of Ultron, it goes like this to me.
totally agree. I totally agree.
Like,
That's a
you know what
common
I mean?
sentiment, though.
Yeah,
that's a very
like,
common
it's-
sentiment.
Yeah, it's just kind of it's confusing me.
Yeah, I mean that's how this goes. The more you watch things, the way things change. But again, the spirit of this show is that like we are ranking these based on the rewatch that we just did. We're not here to talk about like our first viewing or
No, I agree.
nostalgia.
I
Like
agree.
this is the way the list
100%.
shakes out based on how we just
almost
watched
like
the movies.
a new experience. And I think what's nice is like so much time has passed. It kind of sucks that they haven't brought out more content more often and good content at the same time. But I noticed so much more things that I didn't notice when I watched in the theaters or the last time I watched
Sure,
it. Right?
like,
so when I do the rewatch, I'm like, they're in this. Like I said it to Joe before this started. I forgot Abomination was in this movie.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
which is one of the biggest scenes, in Wong, right? Like the fight. So, this is like the perfect time for us to roll back in. I feel just to kind of do this, right?
I agree. I
Yeah.
like this list still. I think we're in a good spot. Like I think our top 5, our top 10 makes a lot of sense. I might switch Avengers and Age of Ultron. I might have Far From Home a little higher. I might throw Iron Man 3 over Iron Man 1. Who knows? But I think it's overall a pretty good list.
I agree. Yeah, like I said, I could nitpick, but it's not worth it because the ones I care about are the top 5 and the top 10, and I
Did
think
Rashawn
we've
try
mostly
to
got those right.
Snap 3 over 1.
No,
Yes.
Rashawn. No,
Vice versa.
Yeah. Rashawn's not 3 over 1. Me and Joe have. I think we were originally 1 over 3, and then we've just been slowly like, no, I think we like 3 better. I think we both kind of been on the same path that we like 3 better than 1.
I have to go back. I
I
feel like
wanna
I
see
had
that
3 above
vote.
1.
Maybe.
Can I snap that? I want to
Yeah,
see
whatever
it.
you want. You're gonna lose it. Don't waste it.
No, it's not about a losing.
Don't
or
waste
winning.
it. JT has unlimited snaps, and second of all, who's keeping track of those?
That's the problem. That's the problem. I don't even know the rules anymore.
Yeah, there's no rules. I can do as many snaps I want. It's the same
doesn't
thing
matter.
as I tried with Endgame and Infinity War. See who
No,
likes
you
what
didn't
better.
try. You successfully did it. Infinity War was
No,
our top
I didn't
fucking movie.
I didn't try to do it.
You
I said I
did
wanted
it.
to see what the crowd. Roll the tape. I said I want to see what
Oh!
people would think. I said I could not decide between both. I don't care which is which. That was my exact words.
But
Why don't
It
we
happened
roll
to-
the tape on the Far From Home episode?
there's a lot of tape. There's a lot of tape where you say you like that movie a lot.
We burned it. Burned it.
So me too.
I'm
I
snapping.
think that's the
I want to snap. Let's put a vote up.
for real.
Iron Man
Okay.
3 over Iron Man 1. I want to see what
All right,
people
that's
think.
fine. Most people are gonna yell at us.
I don't even know how we do this anymore. I'll just ask somebody on. I'm just gonna walk around Transit Road and ask a couple people what I think.
Just put it on Instagram threads. That thing pops off.
There's like 8 people on there.
I know. We'll get 8 votes. It makes it just 9 at least, so we get 5 and 4.
I'm sorry. My favorite development of the night is JT and his memory of the Far From Home episode. Like it's
Right.
so funny to me. I don't know why.
It's
No,
incredible.
I was against it in the beginning of that episode. You guys convinced me probably, but I don't like it.
Oh, now he remembers it. Right, there it
No,
is.
no. You like that movie?
No, I don't like that movie. It's
You
terrible.
did. Terrible's insane. Terrible's insane.
Fake
Insane.
Come on.
Fake ass Mysterio.
What do you? That is so true to Mysterio's character. Like insanely true.
Nope.
Done.
It's like Mandarin. Come on, it's fine.
Actor. All right.
You right now, an actor.
Throw the.
I can't. It's so
I would like
funny.
that vote up on threads, Johnny. Let's do it.
I'm putting it on MySpace polls.
Actually, my
Well-
pop up. Everybody's leaving Facebook and Twitter these days.
All right.
X.
Let's wrap this episode up. Anything we didn't get to for Shang-Chi.
Apparently, I need to
And Far
rewatch
From
Far
Home.
From Home. So,
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm excited to keep going. I'm excited for Phase 4 because like it was an interesting phase for Marvel. We all had all sorts of thoughts and opinions, and things got weird for a little while. So I'm excited to get into that weirdness and start talking about that stuff. I'm excited for the Eternals and for another big set piece moment like Spider-Man No Way Home. Like I'm excited to get back into these movies for sure.
I'm excited for the next 2 movies, right? The Eternals, No Way Home.
Yeah,
Like,
right. We
come
got
on.
fun conversations ahead.
Maybe-
That's for sure.
Can't wait to forget about No Way Home, apparently, but besides that.
Dude, Eternals right there. I can't wait to
Oh,
take
only
the
seen
deep dive into the
I've only
discussion
seen it
there.
once. I'm pumped to see it again and have more
Really?
more thoughts.
see
Yeah,
it twice.
let's do it.
All right.
Thrice now.
All right.
Joe,
Well,
we're gonna convince you, buddy.
I am open-minded. Sell me on why it's a good
We're gonna
movie, and
do
maybe I'll
to
listen.
Rashawn, or
Maybe I'll even
or
agree.
You guys did it for Sean.
I'll definitely listen. Whether I agree or not, we'll see. We'll have to tune in, I guess.
John, it's gonna be our best work. We got this.
I love Shang-Chi. I cannot wait for Spider-Man. That is going. I love that movie so much. It's so good. I can't wait to see it in the lens now. A few years later, was it so good in my mind because it was exciting when it happened, or does it hold up a few years later? I know that's a discussion, so we'll get into that.
Got thoughts
But-
about that movie. I've got a lot of thoughts about that movie.
I am very, very, very excited, man. Let me tell you, I remember so much about sitting there in that theater and all
Dude.
these special moments that
Oh
happened
my
throughout.
God.
Like,
Oh my
like,
god.
I screamed.
dude, if you could imagine, like with that movie, every rumor basically about it was real.
Yeah.
Everything was. I think this person's in it. I think that person's in it. It was like a list of crazy pipe dreams, and like it all came true.
When it comes to
Um,
hype, it's Endgame, Infinity War, and it's No Way Home. Those are the only 3 that belong on that list of like insane hype and payoff and all of that. But again, I've got a lot of thoughts on that movie. I cannot wait to talk about it.
I remember buying that when that came out on home video, and just I was getting one of the girls to bed and just watching it, and I remember crying at one point in the movie. And Lauren walks in, and she's like, "What is going? You're crying?" I'm like, "It's Spider-Man. Like, I can't. You gotta watch what's going on here. It's so special." So it was really insane. But all right, we'll put a bow on this episode of MCU Reviewed. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether it was on YouTube or Twitch, we really appreciate it. You can listen to this podcast on podcast services around the globe. For John, for JT, I'm Josiah. We'll catch you next episode for Marvel's Eternals. Have a wonderful rest of your week.